Hugh, thank you for ringing.
That's okay. I actually sent you an email, but they thought it was better if I spoke to you.
Well, we would much rather you spoke, because that's your voice instead of mine.
Right. Anna, I've got a theory which I think I'm going to patent. It's actually called my 40-year theory.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to read what I've sent you, but we can, discuss it in between us.
Sure.
They say life begins at 40.
Yes.
It don't.
No.
What happens is around that age of 40, plus or minus 5 years,
yes,
or thereabouts, you suddenly realise that you've served your personal life apprenticeship.
Ah, go on.
From that day you were born, you've learnt to walk, talk, communicate, you've made friends, you've lost friends, you've gone to school, you've moved school, you've had wars, you've fight, you've bought something, you've ridden a bike, you've fallen off it, you've done everything else, maybe you've gone to further education or work or something like that, you've had girlfriends, boyfriends, you've been in love, you've fallen out of love, you've driven a car, had an accident, sold it, maybe bought a house, had a mortgage, lost it, maybe phoned an airplane, you've argued, you've made up, you've done it, married, you've had kids, divorced, by the time you reach 40, I don't know, plus or minus 5 years.
Go on.
Maybe slightly older these days. You sit down at 40 or thereabouts and you say, what the hell am I doing here?
Yes.
You might decide to carry on, status quo.
Yes.
You might decide to change everything.
Yes.
Oh, fed up with him, or I'm fed up with her, I want to do this and what. Many divorces occur around the age of 40.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Mine did.
Yes.
It wasn't my fault. My wife suddenly told me that my daughter wasn't my daughter.
Right.
Many relationships change at 40.
Yes.
I'm getting fed up with him. He's sitting around all the time. He doesn't do anything. She don't do this. She's always down the club or whatever. And, what do you reckon on this? They want to change a partnership. They want to change a life. They want to do something. And everything happens around about 40. I'll say plus or minus 5 years. Maybe you've got to move the scale up 50 plus or minus 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I think
do you find that?
I think it's a midlife crisis.
Well, that's what it's called.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
You call it the 40-year theory.
Yeah.
I think that it's true, but I think that it depends. The reason that it's so distressing to hear you read it out is because it built into it is the expectation that there was nowhere in there that you would ever take stock before you got to the crunch.
No, not really, because I've also got this other slight theory that most people, they say nowadays that if you go for divorce, you've got to go for counselling and you've got to do it. What the hell? If it's broken, get rid of it. There's no point in pulling your hair out and sweating guts because, you want to make up with your wife or your partner.
But the purpose of counselling in divorce is not necessarily to hold the marriage together. The purpose of counselling in divorce is so that you should understand how you arrived at the point that you've got to.
Well, I should think most people do that, don't they?
No, they don't.
Oh, they're not there?
They don't, because all of that thing that you described so graphically, did this, did that, experienced this, experienced that, wrote this off, changed that, mended this, fixed that, discarded that, were disappointed with that, that is all going one way. And at no point in it were there any checkpoints where you said, hang on a minute, do I really want to do this? And there's no kind of overview in it. It's as if by doing, it would keep itself running. And there is a point where it runs out. You call it the 40-year theory. I call it the midlife crisis.
Or the MOT.
Or the MOT, but it's the middle of your life. And the thing about the first half of your life is you think, as we have been discussing at intervals throughout this programme, it'll go on forever. And then you realise that actually we're now an hour down. And then we're 2 hours down. And then we're 3 hours down. And then we're the 4th hour down and we've done it. And life is like that. We suddenly get to a point where we think, but there isn't another 20 years. And even if there is another 20 years, I'm not sure I want to spend it the same kind of way.
No,
so you actually begin to consider, but don't go away with this idea that somebody suggesting counselling to you because you were divorced was suggesting that would mend your marriage. If you thought that, you were wrong.
No, it wasn't. I didn't think that. But they wanted to see me without my wife. I mean, I'm going back to 30 years.
Yes.
20, 25 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was a case of like, no, I don't really want to cut the grass anymore. No, I don't really want to come third after the dog. No, yes, I'm paying 65 grand for my daughter's education, but I'm still coming third after the dog. Mm-hmm. And when she turned around and said, I want you to move out, and didn't give me a reason, then told me my daughter wasn't my daughter, and then, I said, hang on, whoa, then I sort of had, then we went to counselling and things like that, and, they said, well, why aren't you doing anything about this? I said, well, hang on, I've had so much mud thrown at me, what's the point? There's no point. No, and I gave my ex-wife the house and said, right, that's it, bye, get on with it. And I met a lovely lady who died last year from cancer, but that's beside the point.
But what is your point?
My point is that a lot of people don't take stock of their life, just like you said. They don't see, where have I come from, and where am I going, and why?
Exactly.
And I've been listening on and off to what people have been saying about loneliness, and it is what someone said. I got out and I went swimming.
Yes.
There's other ways. I mean, men can join clubs. I mean, there's always a lot of people are Freemasons still, and there's lots of things. My current partner, she goes to yoga on a Monday, and she goes to Pilates on a Thursday, and she goes out for walks.
Yes.
She wants to know the area.
Yes.
She hasn't got any friends as such, and that's another theory in mind. Women tend not to have friends. They have associates, but they usually associate with their partner's friends. I'm talking male, like they used to follow their husband around the country as he changed his job and that, and they pick up other friends down the road. But a man has a friend from life, should we say from school, whereas a woman tends to change acquaintances as they go down.
Oh, Hugh, for heaven's sake, stop there. I will have 75 irate women falling down the telephone saying, who the hell does that man think he is? Because, actually, just hang on a minute. Actually, you can't make a general statement out of a personal statement. Because the woman that you live with doesn't find it easy to make friends, or doesn't, for whatever reason of her own choosing, doesn't make friends, it doesn't mean that you can go on from that to extrapolate that women don't make friends.
No, I'm not saying it from that.
Yes, you are. That's what you said.
Yeah,
women don't make friends is what you said. Women don't make friends, they have associates. Women don't make friends, a man makes a friend, it's forever. This is not true. It is true of you. You make a friend forever. She doesn't make friends easily. That's you, Hugh, and the woman you live with. You may not make a general statement out of those two. That's nonsense.
Well, now you've got a programme for the next 2 hours.
Thank you so much.
Call now 03459 570057.